people come on and they say, well, what are we going to talk about for 2 hours? So, don't worry about it, but let's look at it and let's share something specific about what you actually do and how you come to work with your clients and how they relate to you.
Look, my clients find me. I don't need to go out searching. They either get referred or they come across me and go, I want some of that, which is always beautiful.
It is nice, isn't it?
And we just start with a chat, and we figure out what's holding them back, what's not working in their life. And we just take it from there. And those that I have worked with, their marriages have been saved, their businesses have been saved, their connection, they have saved themselves. They have found who they are just through the process of coming back into self. And, every client gets homework. They have to do their homework, and that'll be meditation of some description or an exercise of visualization. Connecting with the earth every day is a must. But we also look at the physical form. So it's a holistic approach. It's physical, mental, and emotional. And from a physical perspective, what are you doing with your body? Are you moving it every day? Are you eating right? Are you drinking enough water? What physical injuries do we need to start addressing, and why are they there? Is it a past life physical injury? Because they can, when you go to the doctor, you've got an issue and you go to the doctor and the doctor goes, there's nothing wrong with you, and you do all of those tests. Well, it's because it's an energetic issue. It is not a physical issue. Now, I won't say all the time. Sometimes you've got to keep diving and going down the rabbit holes to look at other physical elements to that. But there's definitely energetic reasons behind some of those medical issues. So physically, from a mental perspective, okay, what is my mindset like? Am I stuck in the negative thought processes? Because the human mind is hardwired to focus on that negative first, because it's about survival. I've got to survive. So let's shift that mindset. Let's look at it from a different perspective. And that different perspective brings so many aha moments. And then emotionally, well, what am I addressing or not addressing? Because how often do you sit down and go, okay, I need to emotionally look at everything that has affected me today?
I don't.
So what you're doing is accumulating. All of those emotions are getting pushed to a side, and your emotional body, which is one of the layers of your field, is filling up and filling up. And eventually that becomes full. And when it's full, it overflows. So you have an emotional breakdown. Mentally, if you're not processing all of the elements that you need to process, your mental bucket's going to be full. So you're going to have a mental breakdown, and then that leads to the physical breakdown. So it's a holistic approach. It's, you look at a runner, an athlete, or a marathon runner, they're going to go out and train and run, but if they don't stretch afterwards or prepare before the race, or eat the right food, then they're not going to be prepared in the right way to perform at their optimal level. So it's a holistic approach.
And it's interesting that you say athletes or runners or marathon runners or whatever. They visualize the race before they even start. So they go through their race, and that can be an emotional thing as well as a mental thing for them to be able to achieve what they want to achieve. They visualize it first to see themselves get to the end of whatever it is that they're doing.
Definitely. Look, your energy flows where your attention goes. Pay attention to it, and the energy is going to flow there. So if you're focused on positive outcomes, that's where you're going to be headed. If you're stuck in fear or in a negative perspective, that's where the energy is going to flow. You're just going to create a block. You're going to get stuck there.
And there are a lot of people stuck there, but don't realize they're stuck there because their awareness isn't around any of that. They're just stuck in this place and they can't shift it. So they can't then look at it holistically and say, I need help. I need Larissa to help me to move forward and help me remove whatever it is that I'm stuck in back here so that I can be up here.
Yeah, so the body's in survival mode and the mind is in survival mode too. It's the, oh, I'll do that later. I can't get to that now, because there's no room.
No.
You've got to create space for self. And if you're not creating time for you to connect with self, then you're going to be leading yourself down that path of physical, mental, or emotional breakdown.
It's a bit like, when you fill up a cupboard with food and you can't put any more in it, and you've got it stacked so high, you can't put any more in it. It's the same sort of thing with your body. You've got all this information, be it good, bad, or indifferent, and it just keeps piling up and piling up. And if you don't deal with it, then it comes to a crashing halt at some stage.
It does. So energetically, what I do and what my healers that work for me do is that they clear out the field, they clear out that bucket, they clear out the pantry, so to speak, to give the individual space to then be able to address what needs to be addressed.
And they always say, clear some space if you want new clothes, clear some space in your wardrobe so that you've got room to put some new things in there instead of just shoving things in. I'm not guilty of that.
When was the last time you cleaned out the fridge, all the jars in the back,
I don't really have a lot of those, but it's the clothes cupboard.
It's the concept, yeah.
and so it's the same with your mind. Your physical ability gets squashed because you can't cope, because there's so much going on in there, you don't know where to turn.
Every thought, feeling, emotion, situation, event you have ever experienced lives in your energetic field. And unless you have cleared it out, it's going to get heavy. You're going to be carrying around that baggage. So it's time to get rid of that baggage, drop the baggage away. Let's clear it out so you can have some space to actually, have that time to ask yourself, well, what do I want? What do I need? Where am I going? What's my purpose? Why am I here? And to do that, you've got to recover first.
You do.
Energetically.
Yeah. And so what would be a suggestion that you would make for someone to start to clean out what's going on? Come to you, but what could they do if they didn't know about what you could do for them? What could they do for themselves to start the process?
So give yourself some time each day just to be with you. If you've got a calendar, do time block it, half an hour, whatever it is, and either meditate, give some exercise, read a book, start some journaling, write down how it is that you're feeling and what you're processing or not processing throughout the day. Make it a gratitude journal. What are you grateful for? That has a massive impact on your mindset, just focusing on what's going right. What are the positive things that's going right? And create your joy list. What fills up your cup? What fills up your cup? And do one thing on your joy list every day. And don't do the same thing every day. Change it up. That's a really good way to start looking at you and what makes you happy. Because if you're not happy, then there's some change. You need to make some changes.
Yeah, and I think that joy list is a really good thing. I mean, I have time blocked out for myself, a half an hour during the day, just a half an hour for me, and then early morning until it's time to start work, that's my time for exercise and meditating and doing all that sort of stuff before the day really starts, the work day.
I'd be lost without meditation. Every morning I start with meditation. I go from my bed into my meditation chair, so I've got my own special space with my crystals and just what makes me comfortable, my cushion and my blanket if it's cold, and I sit in meditation. And that might be 20 minutes, it might be an hour, it might be 2 hours, but I give myself what I need.
Okay.
It might not be what I want because I've got other stuff to do. I'm running a business.
Yeah. But it's what you need at the time. Do you ever find yourself in that place of going for more time than you expected?
Yeah, quite often.
Quite
Yeah.
often?
Yeah.
Okay. I usually only allow 15 minutes for meditation, and I find that quite sufficient for me. And a lot of it's deep breathing. And I was listening to someone the other day, and who was it? I can't remember now. And they said there's breath meditation, visual meditation, and spiritual meditation. So there's the three of them. What's your thoughts on that?
Look, there's many different types of meditation, and there's not just three. There's probably 20 or 30 different types of meditation that you can do. But it's about finding what works for you. For me, mantras is what works for me. And I like to repeat Sanskrit mantras just because it gets out of my head. I don't have I know what the Sanskrit word means, but I don't have the human, like my English language version of it. So I'm not giving a bias or perspective to it. And that allows me just to completely get out of the head and be focused on what I'm doing. But it's about finding what works for you. And, a 20-minute meditation is equivalent to 4 hours sleep. Now, I don't recommend you substitute one for the other, but when you come into those deeper levels of brain waves, the body is allowed to come into that rest and recovery state instead of being stuck on fight or flight, with the hormones pumping through the body. So think about when was the last time you actually gave yourself permission for the body to come in rest and recovery state?
Good question.
Apart from sleep, because when you're going to bed, you've either got your phone in your hand or you're still thinking about what it is that you've done from the day.
Try not to do any of that.
Good.
I think.
But a large chunk of society do. They still have their phone in their hand and they're still going over the proceeds of the day.
Yeah, I might sometimes. I try to shut off from that before I go to bed because I want to go to bed to go to sleep. Whereas if I keep my mind going, I will never go to sleep. It just goes and goes and goes and goes. So I work on the process of, relax before I go to sleep, have a cup of tea or whatever it might be. And if I can't go to sleep, I might do a meditation, or I might listen to a podcast, not something that's over the top or stimulating, just something that's light. But a lot of the time it's meditation, just some breath work and things like that to go to sleep.
Breath work is so powerful to relax the body and the mind, and I 100% recommend people do breath work regularly, even throughout the day. From an anxiety or depression perspective, it just resets the body. It resets that fight or flight and allows the body to function how it's meant to function instead of being so highly strung.
And, when you're driving along in the car and you're stuck in traffic and you're thinking, I need to get to that place at this time and I'm stuck in this traffic. I find myself these days doing breath work and relaxing and thinking, I've got no control over this. It will be what it will be.
Yeah, and I think that mindset is what really helps. You have no control, so you've just got to go with the flow.
Yeah, and it does work. It's like I'm much calmer now driving because I can now think about, okay, it's cool, let it go. It's okay. If someone wants to rush in front of me, I used to be quite abusive. Now I figure, nah, you're not going to get anywhere any faster because I'm not getting anywhere any faster. So it doesn't.
That's beautiful awareness. That's awareness. Yeah. You have a choice to react or respond.
Yeah.
And when you take a breath in that moment, that's where you get to choose. Am I going to react how I've always reacted, or am I going to respond differently?
Yeah.
That's a choice.
And it is that reaction that we usually have when we could take a breath. If we're in, conflict, we can step back from that conflict and assess it and say, well, okay, this is the actual issue here, not the emotion. Remove the emotion from it and look at the issue that you need to deal with. Go away. If you need to go away for half an hour or so and come back and work through the process, do so.
Yeah.
It's not it could be a life and death situation. It could be, it doesn't matter. But you have to start taking control of your emotions so they're not taking control of you.
Yeah, and I think a really good question to ask yourself, especially in times of conflict or stress and heightened situations, and I don't mean life or death ones, but ask yourself, what would love do in this situation? What would love do? How would love react? How would love respond? And by giving yourself that moment of reflection, you're going to change your response and your reaction to whatever it is that's occurring. It's going to soften.
That's amazing. I love the way you've said that. What would love do? Because we don't stop to think about that, do we?
No.
Ever, really? Because we're in a heightened emotional state a lot of the time. And so we never stop to think about what would love do.
Yeah, and ask yourself that. Well, what would love do for me right now?
It's interesting. One tip that you could give the listeners, what they could do to start being aware of how they're feeling.
Give yourself the time and the space to become aware and actually ask yourself, well, how am I feeling about this? What does it mean? Where does it come from? Is it my thoughts or emotions, or have these been projected upon me by my upbringing or family or society or whatever? Yes, just stop and ask yourself the question.
Beautiful. How can they get in contact with you, Larissa?
So my Facebook page or my website is saramatu.com. There's some discovery call buttons there that you can book a time to have a chat, and we can see what it is that you need, and if it's worth it. Well, it's all going to be worth it. It's whether you're ready to step up.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that.